All right, so, there was an interesting discussion that came up on my comment page, and there was so much being written that I didn't feel like wading in. And I've sat in a couple of film classes, and I took video classes way before video making was so easy. Well, it's still not easy, but the equipment in those days was so much. I mean, they were just starting to use computers to edit film, but it wasn't as simple as my iMovie program, which is the only one I'm familiar with. And oh man, if I would have had iMovie back then, it would have made a world of difference. And my own video camera. I mean, we'd carry around these big old clunky video cameras that practically, I think, you used a VHS cassette if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so there was a discussion on movies, or some of us that think we're better than everybody else, film. So, and I just wanted to add my 2 cents in there. In the discussion, I guess there was mentioned Orson Welles and Hitchcock, and I think I was asked or something if I considered Citizen Kane one of the all-time great movies. And it's sort of like anything about acquiring tastes, whether you're learning to drink, single malt whiskey, Scotch, or first time you try a cup of coffee, or it's an acquired taste, or it's something that once you become more educated, your tastes become more sophisticated when you learn more about it. Now, I've heard some people go, Citizen Kane, I saw that. It's a bunch of hooey. Why do the critics, the critics as a consensus, call that like the greatest film ever made? Well, if I had just watched Citizen Kane on its own, in comparison to what you see on television and modern movies, and even comparing them to like really entertaining old movies, like let's say, Casablanca comes to mind, or I don't know, there's a lot of great, like Spartacus or something like that, or Ben-Hur. Why did I think of those two? Anyway, there's a lot. Oh, and the Capra films like It's a Wonderful Life or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I really find Mr. Smith Goes to Washington really, really shows when liberals and progressives they've disconnected themselves from real America. That's a fault. They talk about the latte sipping, wine tasting liberal. Liberals need to understand and embrace and become more like in touch with the common people, because after or during the Depression, after the Depression, there were people like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger, and people that were bringing leftist ideas and the good side of it. And Jimmy Stewart, as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, is about what liberal politics should be about. Anyway, because you have the evil capitalists and all that, like you had in It's a Wonderful Life. The guy who runs the bank there represents the evils of capitalism, or the Wall Street, or, we hate banks. At least the thinking people do. Well, not thinking people. Anyway, here I go. I'm talking in circles. Okay, so anyway, film. All right, so I sat in some film class, and I was like basically indoctrinated to understand what makes Citizen Kane such a great movie. Orson Welles was like this wunderkind, this young man who came from radio, who really shook things up, with his War of the Worlds thing and other great radio stuff. And he dabbled in theater. He did the first all-black cast of Othello, which he used funding from the stimulus packages that were going out during the Great Depression, and which is what we're lacking now. We're not getting artists, and writers and other people. The government gave money willy-nilly all over the place, and that's what a lot of people criticize FDR over. But it was good, mostly good, and there were some bad things. So, getting back to Orson Welles, so this guy made this first film, okay? And he changed so many rules of filmmaking. Just for example, one of the main examples is as far as I've learned in this class, and as far as I know, and I've watched older movies, originally films were shot by just like staging a play. Okay? They would take a live play or the idea of a play and just set the camera back and all the action would go back and forth. Orson Welles changed like camera shots and camera angles, and you saw the ceilings in these sets. You would see that there was a ceiling. Now, if you watch any movies before Citizen Kane, I defy you to see just if there's any film where, you know, like theatrical film, I mean, you know, entertainment, not some documentary thing or experiment, but where you see the ceiling. And then he did some other wonderful tracking shots that he'd never done before. There's a tracking shot where the camera moves towards a building, and you see it in the rain hitting the window, and as it comes to the window, it passes through the window into the interior. And what they had is it's two men, as the camera got to a certain point out of focus, they pulled the sides of the window apart and the camera entered. I mean, a lot of this stuff was groundbreaking. And also the story, the way the story unfolded and the use of flashbacks, et cetera, was groundbreaking. It probably had been done before, but he made very good use of it. Plus his acting. The man underwent a change long before, what's his name? Raging Bull. And I can't think of the actor's name right now, excuse me, but he's a very, very famous actor. We all know his name. And my phone's ringing. Who could that be Pops? Oh, hold on. Sorry. Hello? Oh, I'm in the middle of taping a Fez. Do you want to go on speakerphone? Okay. All right. Well, can I call you right back? Okay, bye. All right, sorry about that. Oh, I forgot to turn the ringer on. Oh, I mean, I'm crashing into stuff. So anyway, getting back to Orson Welles, the guy just really shook things up. Not only that, he created a controversy because he denied doing it, but of course he did. He based the movie on Randolph Hearst, which, getting into another political thing, Randolph Hearst was one of the first media monopolies, which is what we're having now. First media monopolies in the United States. And they passed laws against that. And since then, even Bill Clinton was part of that, making it easier for a corporation to just own this vast media thing. So Randolph Hearst was basically a kingmaker because he controlled so many newspapers that he could get people elected. You know? I mean, because so many newspapers all over these cities and everything, and people saw there was a problem with that. The right wing doesn't understand it. They're against the fairness doctrine, but they fail to see the dangers. And it was happening in this country. Randolph Hearst was rumored to start the Spanish-American War because he pumped up that idea of the Maine. Remember the Maine? Did I get that right? I think so.